Hello and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host Brian. We're going to wrap up today with a special selection, which is where one of you tell me exactly what it is I need to check out. Today's special selection comes at us from Jared in Mourning, The Black Lodge. That's that's a combination of titles, bands, words right there. Ah, jeez. I'm thinking doom metal with like an emo twist is where we're going with this based on like uh band logo, and they got a raven with like really nice script for their logo, and it's just like very dreary. In Mourning, the Black Lodge. I don't know. Let's get into it, see what's going on. Let's check out In Mourning. Okay, you got me already. Okay. But okay, it was very kind of metal core leaning, and now it's metal. This is a really interesting combination of sounds. I don't know what to make of it yet. It's gonna take a bit. Really interesting the way that they balance both of these opposing sides. Such a core thing to do. We got a breakdown with stuff in the higher register though. Like, this is not as low pitch as I would expect for a breakdown. It's still very difficult for me to get a read on this. Jeez. Oh, it didn't go for it. I really like that melody though. Starting lower, jumping up real high, and coming back down. It felt very conversational. It's back to the verse idea, right? Yeah, that riff is definitely our opening metal riff. What a bizarre track. I think I'm really digging it though. There's a real longing in the song. Hmm. All right, so like the first thing that is just really apparent to me that I need to talk about first because it's what's causing me both my fascination and my frustration with this. Got the double F going on. It is all over the place. It is kind of metal core at times. It's kind of post-hardcore sometimes. It pulls out some traditional metal at times. It even goes pop emo for a majority of our middle section. these don't fit together. I mean, there's some crossover between metalcore and post-hardcore. There's some crossover between post-hardcore and emo. There's some crossover between metalcore and metal. So like there are, if we have like a series of circles, we can create like Venn diagram crossovers between the four of them, but they're linearly connected. The emo side has nothing to do with the metal side. We're talking about degrees of separation at this point, and it's kind of fascinating how all of it can work together in a cohesive whole. It also, though, to me, creates a song that is full of moments, seeing as they don't really combine any of the sounds together. They simply have the metal portion, the core portion, the emo ballad portion. It uh it means that some of the sections work better for me personally than others. In particular, I think the metal section, our first verse, and possibly a repeat of this verse later towards the end of the track, were not a section I really enjoyed. It was nice contrast, and it was interesting hearing how they retained or began the texture and atmosphere work that we would see throughout the rest of the song. But I'm just not a fan of that sound in general. So when we came back to it, I was like, oh, we're back to the metal part. It's not like, oh, I'm digging this. It was, oh, we got to get through this again. And it's not incompetently written or performed. It is fine. It just isn't my cup of tea. And it's so far divorced from everything else in here that it stands out as a unique section of the track. It's connected by atmosphere. That's about it. So, from a subjective take, I do generally enjoy what's going on here. Out of the 8 minute song, I'd say it's like 5 minutes, 6 minutes worth that I enjoyed. I thought it was neat hearing it all put together in that way. Objectively, though, I think this is fascinating. I I kind of don't know why they decided to do this, but I'm really glad they did because I'd never heard anything like it. So we start off the track, there's some atmospheric stuff coming in, and then we enter with a kind of a metalcore riff. Energy, drive, bite on the guitar, emphasis with the drums. We come into the verse and we kind of take some of the core off and just focus on the metal. Our vocals come in, they're a low growl, kind of remind me of death growls. And this is what we sit in for a while before pulling back for a very post-hardcore slash emo chord progression with some lighter guitar work, putting the vocals though on top of it. This is one of the few moments where we actually do sort of merge sides. We'll hear this later on as well during the pop emo ballad moment in the middle, where we put heavy vocals on top of that. The vocals are the least adaptive element of the band. They have no problem changing up the timbre of their instruments, the composition of what they're playing, in order to fit different styles of music. The vocals are, for the most part, always that growl. I mean, there are a couple of different vocals in here. I don't want to completely discredit the vocalist. We do have one set of clean vocals that appear. There is a variety going on, but the harshes are the de facto standard. It's what everything kind of gets a dash of eventually. And I don't necessarily think it works everywhere, though I do want to clarify that's most likely a subjective take because of my biases towards that sound and where it typically is used and typically not used. It's a very different sound hearing those vocals on top of an emo ballad. So I don't think anything was wrong done there. It's just very different in a way that created a lot of friction for me, at least on a first listen. Um, from here we had a chorus, I think maybe with the clean vocals. We kept the lighter guitar work, the lighter drumming, and we put some clean vocals on top of it. And then we enter into the middle. And this part was fun because we sort of had a light metalcore introduction here that gave way to just kind of emo style chords on lighter guitars. I think there was an acoustic guitar in here even. And just very atmospheric working with these dreary chord progressions. It's kind of wild how at one part in this song I feel like I'm in the 90s, and the other part of the song I feel like I'm a teenager wearing all black in, the 2010s, 2000s, whatever. It really does borrow sounds from everywhere, and it's bonkers how well it does all of them. But we do have this very atmospheric middle section here, and it is one of the few moments where we sit within a single sound for a while. From about minute 4 to minute 5, we have this exploration of this chord progression I was speaking about before kicking in, bringing the growls on top of it, bringing in an electric guitar. I really thought, given that there were only like 3 minutes left in the track, we were going to continue to build from here. I was quite surprised when we came out of this and revisited the verse metal section and went back into, I think, a chorus. I really thought, given the linearity of everything, we were going to utilize this as the jumping off point to get to our bombastic outro. Or maybe not bombastic, might not be the right word. Maybe something more of just a slow burn to a big moment. Given all the dreariness that was going on, there's certainly a weight and a melancholy present throughout most of these sections that you can certainly lean into with multiple layers. And given that they had showcased so many styles, I thought maybe this was going to be the point when all of them are brought together in a way through a layering process to reach a climactic finale that had a little bit of core plus this emo acoustic guitar thing underneath, plus the growls and maybe some metal riffage or a solo on top of all that. I don't know. I found that I really enjoyed this section the most, even if it didn't do what I thought it was going to. Everything else, it goes by so fast. We're doing this riff for 30 seconds, and then this style for 40 seconds, and then this style for 30 seconds, and it just kind of turns into a blur until we slow down here. This feels very narrative driven. I'm curious what the lyrics are going to be like for this. What the topics are. I can't necessarily, well, I can't. It takes time to listen to the lyrics while the song's playing again to figure out what lyrics are said when. Um, there's a lot of lyrics here too. But yeah, I'm kind of curious what the lyrics are about, just generally speaking. Um, because there is this whirlwind of this, then that, then this, then that, then this, and then just this weight that allows us to be suspended in this middle section for a while before being tossed back into the whirlwind. Now, as much as I enjoyed moments of this, I think it really hurts in the production, which I find interesting given that it is a remaster. Um, I don't know. It comes off the Shrouded Divine album. And I don't know how Spotify works that. It says 2008, but that could have been the release for the remaster. Although 2008 sounds about right for this sound, so maybe that's accurate too. Like I said, I don't know if Spotify lists the year. Friday, October 3rd. I didn't know Spotify listed the exact release date. But I don't know if it's the release date of the original or the remastered re-release. So I guess I'll figure that out in a second. But the production I feel is it's lacking in every moment. And I don't know if this is a in Mourning thing. At the beginning of the track, I seriously thought we were in store for some black metal that might have been emo-ified. Given the production, it wasn't until we got into some of the riffs and I was like, oh, we're definitely not in store for black metal. But the production is still there. It's still claustrophobic. It's still lacking dynamics in any direction. It's lacking crispness and clarity. It's lacking width. It sort of just is. It's a blunt sound at all times, and so it doesn't feel contrasty or dynamic or unfortunately exciting. And I know that's a weird word to want a dreary, depression soaked atmosphere like this, but it does need to catch you. Just yesterday, we checked out a song from Leprous called Acquired Taste that is heavy and dreary and moody. It still has a pop to it, it still sounds good to listen to. You can certainly achieve a weight and a negative atmosphere with a crisp and bright production. And I kind of wish that's what happened here. It all sort of falls flat to me. And when you pair that with the slower tempo, which isn't a problem on its own, but the song just feels like it drags and it never quite gets the punch that it needs. I'm curious then if the original might be better. Sometimes remasters decide to change things in ways that aren't necessarily what was important for the original art. Sometimes a remaster is done just to brought it up to modern standards, and sometimes it doesn't quite translate the intention anymore, even if it sounds more accessible to modern ears. So I don't know, maybe I'll check out the original on my own. If nothing else, just, a few bars, see what's going on there. But I did feel this was just a bit too flat for me to really get engaged with it. Needed just a little bit of punch. Well, that said, let me hit some lyrics, see what's going on. It's interesting the division I felt between the musical structure and the lyrical structure that's written here. This says verse 1, chorus 2, chorus 1, bridge. Verse 1, chorus 2, chorus 1. In a sense, I would probably write it verse, chorus, bridge, verse, inverse chorus. If we perceive chorus 1 and 2 to just be 4 lines, one half of each of the chorus itself, 4 out of the 8 lines each, we just invert which set of 4 comes first. Verse, chorus, bridge, verse, chorus. It's an interesting lineup though. It it compresses down the ABABCB pattern that was so prevalent for so long in a way that is different than the modern compression, which is to cut off our final chorus and just end in the bridge. Here, we cut out the second verse and chorus entirely. It's it's something. And that's what makes it feel linear. Verse, chorus, bridge. but there's a lot of micro movement between the verse and the bridge. And the bridge itself had a lot of movement too that's not replicated in the lyrics, of course. There's a lot of instrumental stuff going on there too. So yeah. And then we hit the cycle at the end, another verse, another chorus. That's when I'm like, oh, I recognize these parts. So it feels like a linear trek for quite some time, and then there's a loop back. I guess there's not so much of a schism between the two structures as I thought. There's just a lot of instrumental parts that expand between where the words are. The song, though, is about a woman who commits suicide, it seems like. The bridge says beautiful when she left the door unclosed behind the red dress. The evidence was on her wrists. Where are you going? What are you leading me to? Though the trail to the lodge is irrelevant. The lodge, from the title, the Black Lodge, I believe is death. It doesn't matter how she got to death. As it says, it's always the end, and we're finally there. That's the whole song right there. The verse 1 just leads us into this. Gone for days, Julia, without a trace, leaving some words, a note, as if anyone gave a damn. She laid her eyes upon the glade, a place unseen by many and unknown to all. So she just left, put a note down just in case anyone actually cared, and went to this glade, presumably to take her own life. Says she's hiding herself in broad daylight from the seekers of the grind denial. She was a keeper of the inside by this place which is unfound, a pity sight for the magpie, the Black Lodge. I don't necessarily understand who this character is, why she was so unhappy as to commit this act. Maybe there's more in the rest of the album. Maybe it's a concept album. I don't know. But it's sparse on details here. It simply speaks of somebody who was unhappy and had a place in the society, in the village, whatever, that made her unhappy. I still don't know what exactly that is. The Seekers of the Grind Denial. I don't know what that is. Regardless, though, she took her life. And our main character went searching for her and went to the edge of life to find her. With the final line, I can still see you through the water. There's still memories, reflections of you. You're gone, but at least for me, you're sometimes still here. And so a lot of that longing that's in the track, I think, is about wishing this person was still around. The dreariness of the song, the sorrow in it, the melancholy present throughout everything. Just, the atmosphere. What's really well done and stuck throughout everything, regardless of what style of music they decide to play it through, is completely palpable in the lyrics. Quick side note before we wrap this up. According to everybody, this is a melodic death metal album. Mellow death. That was never my guess. The vocals, sure, are death, but there's very little metal going on in here. Their second genre, though, is progressive metal, and I can lean into that. This is very progressive if you want to stick with the metal line, but to me, only half of it is metal. The other half is more rock adjacent, with a little bit of punk thrown in. Progressive is probably the right term for it. And maybe the rest of the album does lean a bit more into the death side so that the melodic death descriptor makes sense on the album. But I'm kind of curious how this song itself would be classified because, as I mentioned, death metal really isn't prevalent here. It shows up in the verse, which is 2 out of 9 sections of the track. It's not in the majority at all. Those are my thoughts on the Black Lodge by In Mourning. Let me know what you thought of this track. If there's anything that stood out to you, anything you like to add on to what I said. It just dawned on me too that the song moved right into the next track. So there might be something larger at play in the narrative. Even if it's not a conceptual album, it could still be calling on themes present elsewhere. Anyways, let me know your thoughts, opinions, perspectives, whatever, down in the comment section. Above that, in the description box, you'll find a link to Linktree. It takes you here. You can find links to my music, ways to support the channel, a link to the Discord server, and so much more. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all 3 of those. That wraps it up for today. I'll be back tomorrow. We're going to continue on with our theme, studio versus live. There'll only be 1 video tomorrow. We will look at a studio recording and then a live performance back to back and do some compare and contrast. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening whenever you choose to watch my videos.